was sweeter than apples. It was cheaper than water, and sustained the soul twice as well. If Johann was going to be a thing with a name, then from now on he would be a thing with power, too. Johann grew another 3 feet so fast his body could hardly keep up. His skin was pallid and thin, stretched taut over a skeleton that threatened to slice through his flesh at every knobby juncture. He walked with a deliberate slouch, arms knifing out from his body at hard angles when he placed them in his pockets. He cultivated a persona with the dedicated fervor of a character actor, a practiced charm that appeared natural, a crooked smile, an easy laugh, spider-leg fingers that snapped and threaded through the air as he spoke. The role became so lived-in and claustrophobic that the effort required to peel back the skin was not worth the reveal. He never took his gloves off. He knew of 2 ways to make money, and he knew that he didn't like the first one. He killed to get the things he wanted. A professor of literature's pretty, smiling throat taught him how to read. A seamstress bled to death from a long, craggy gash down the center of her back once she finished the trimming of his jacket. He was careful with her, frog-stitching the overlocked seams of her spine with a boning knife, whistling to himself as he worked. A butcher showed him how to disassemble a body, and then disappeared down the drain in pieces himself. Johann liked killing. He appreciated that every part of the killing act was a function of instinct, that any thinking person is only a breath away from an animal, a half-creature with no name. He refined killing, practiced it like an art. He practiced like his knife was a horsehair bow being pulled over a throat stringed with catgut. As he grew skilled, he began to live life with the philosophical enthusiasm of a man eating his last meal. He showed up at parties uninvited, drank with the dock rats on holidays, sat in the square at dusk and watched how people behaved while they were worked to the bone. When the gas lamps flickered on, he lay in the shadows like an oil slick and thought of himself as a piece of the dark, a feature of the city that crept across her rooftops like a ribbon pulled through a bonnet, moving smoothly through the fabric, drawn tight to pull it shut. Elendhaven's very own murderer, Johann of the night. For some reason, no one ever remembered his face. Elendhaven was Johann's entire world. He was a creature weaned off its oily tit. Southerners called its harbor the Black Moon of Norden, a fetid crescent that hugged the dark waters of the polar sea. The whole city stank of industry. The air was thick with oil, salt, and smoke, which had long settled into the brick as a slick film, making the streets slippery on even the driest days. It was a foul place, foul-scented, foul-weathered, and plagued with foul, ugly architecture. Squat warehouses peppered with snails and seagrass, mansions carved from heavy black stone, their thick windows stained green and greasy from exposure to the sea. The tallest points in Elendhaven were the chimneys of the coal refineries. The widest street led south, redded by the carts that dragged whale offal down from the oil refineries. Hundreds of years ago, the North Pole had been cut open by searing magic, a horrific event that left the land puckered with craters, like the one Elendhaven huddled in. For 5 centuries, the black waters had been poisoned with an arcane toxin that caused the skin to bubble and the mind to go soggy and loose like bread in broth. Once in a while, the fishermen would pull up an aberration from the ocean floor, something frothing and wet with its insides leaking out its eyes. "Demons and monsters," visitors whispered. "Such creatures still sleep inside the Black Moon." Johann learned what sort of creature he was by accident. One day he slipped on a patch of ice. His ankle